Good morning, friends. I'm Matt Greer. This is Monday Morning Music with Matt. I'm coming to you from my office at St. John's United Methodist Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we're so pleased you are with us this morning. That was a piece by Sean Kirchner called Brightest and Best, performed by the USC Thornton Chamber Singers, directed by Joe Michael Scheibe. Great way to start the morning. And the reason that I played it is if you come to worship on this next Sunday morning, the 17th of October at 11 o'clock, or watch us on the live stream, you will hear that piece of music. Chancellor Choir has been rehearsing that for the last several weeks. And actually, what you just heard is a Christmas version of that song, Brightest and Best. We're singing a different text on Sunday morning, Great is Thy Faithfulness, because it's not yet Christmas. But one of the reasons that we're doing that is we're going to have a fantastic fiddle player with us, Stephanie Bettman, who is going to be introduced to you later, since she's part of a duo called Bettman and Halpin, and they're doing a concert for us next Sunday, and it's going to be fantastic, and I'm so looking forward to chatting with them this morning. There is so much going on in the music ministry right now, it seems, especially because we're in this in-between place where we are trying to make music both in the building for people who are here and also continue to put music out to the community for people who are at home for whatever reason. So as I mentioned, we have a concert coming up this Sunday afternoon that will feature Bettman and Halpin, and that's at 2 p.m. That will be both live in our sanctuary and live streamed. And then, as I hope you know, we just re-inaugurated a series of noon live stream concerts from our sanctuary. The first one was last Thursday, had a wonderful recital from baritone Aaron Howe and pianist Jim Arend, which you can still see on YouTube if you happen to miss it. But we're going to be doing those noon exclusively live streamed concerts through October and November, again, to continue to put music out to the community and also to hopefully raise some money for Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless, which is an organization that the music ministry has partnered with for over a decade. So this Thursday at noon, there's a live recital happening from our sanctuary. Fred Sturm, who's a fantastic pianist, who specializes primarily in music from Latin America, is going to be doing a solo piano recital at noon. And then a week from Thursday on, I guess, the 21st, yes, we're going to have a fantastic local singer-songwriter named Oscar Butler. He did a recital on the last series of live streams, and people really, really enjoyed him. So as you're home or at your desk at work on Thursdays at noon, we hope you will tune in and support those musicians, give money to Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless, and of course, you can view those concerts afterwards as well. Speaking of Fred Sturm, I wanted to give you a little taste of Fred's playing this morning. Since he's going to be performing this Thursday on our noon live stream. I mentioned that he tends to specialize in the music of Latin America, and actually the program that he's playing this Thursday is entirely music of living composers from Latin America. Fantastic stuff. He's just a wonderful performer. But this is a video of Fred playing something else. This is, I found on searching around YouTube, a wonderful collection of performances of his of ragtime. And this is a Scott Joplin rag called Grace and Beauty Rag. This is Fred Sturm. Enjoy. Fred Sturm playing Scott Joplin. Hope that you will tune in this Thursday for Fred's live stream recital from our sanctuary. It's going to be fantastic. And also, as you are with us this morning from wherever you are, we hope you'll let us know you're here by saying hello in the chat, or if you have any questions for me or for the guests that I'm about to introduce, they said they would answer any questions that you could possibly have of them. I'm so happy to have this morning my friends Stephanie Bettman and Luke Halpin. And I'm just thrilled that they are coming back on our concert series this weekend and that they're going to be making music for us in worship on Sunday morning. One of the reasons for that is that the very first thing that got canceled when the world shut down, at least as far as St. John's was concerned, was a concert that they were supposed to do for us in late March of 2020. And I remember having to make that phone call to them to say, it doesn't look good. And I think we had, cases turning up in Albuquerque, and it seemed just the thing to do was to cancel that concert, but it made me very, very unhappy to do so. So bringing them back makes me very, very happy. And they are joining me this morning from Denver, Colorado. And welcome, Stephanie and Luke.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
What's going on?
Ready for any and all questions that anyone
Any
have.
questions?
Bring it. Give us your best.
Who knows who's watching this morning? I cast a pretty wide net, I gotta say.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So you played that USC version of the Brightest and Best, right? Had to get my fiddle out because compelled to practice.
Right. Yeah, I know. We've done that together before, and I'm so happy to be doing it with you again. So let me just ask you a little business. How did you feel about that tempo in that video?
I'm working toward it.
Oh, she did it fine. I was here.
Oh,
it was good.
Oh.
Us self-flagellating musicians. It's so hilarious.
I'll get there.
Well, I have, when I pulled out my score from the last time we did it together, I had a big old Post-it note on the front page that said "not too fast." So I'm going to keep that Post-it note for Sunday morning.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, one of the reasons that it seems like every time we invite you to come to Albuquerque, it seems like you don't take that long to respond, is that, Stephanie, you're from here, right? Albuquerque is home?
I am. Albuquerque is where I grew up, still where my family is. Yep, I always come back when I can. I love New Mexico.
Yeah. So tell me, how is it that you, tell me about your experience making music growing up in Albuquerque, and then I would love to know kind of how you grew up making music in Albuquerque and how eventually you ended up making
music on my own.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I grew up. I went through the system as it used to be in Albuquerque, where there was a pretty well-established, well-supported music system in the schools, and then there was the Albuquerque Junior Symphony, Youth Symphony, the AYS program. So I started playing violin when I was 8, and I started studying with local private teachers, and then in 6th grade I got into junior symphony, and then that dictated the next 7 years of my life, every Saturday morning from 9 to 12 with either junior symphony or youth symphony, and actually a lot of my friends from youth symphony are still in Albuquerque, and they are the ones who are now teaching and leading and conducting, and so that's really fun to come back and see some of those folks. And so I grew up with the classical, influence all along the way, and studied with Lenny Felberg, who was such a fabulous teacher and such a fabulous guy, and he is beloved and missed. And then I went off to Oberlin Conservatory of Music, and I had started singing as well, and so that kind of became my first choice. Because I was never quite disciplined enough with the violin. But
now, are you saying that it requires less discipline to be a singer than to be a violinist? Is that what you're saying?
No. It's easier for me to practice that for some reason.
Yeah, I understand.
More of a personal passion issue.
I think it was just like singing just brought me more joy than frustration, whereas fiddle brought me a little more frustration than joy sometimes. So it was easier for me to spend the time vocally. But So yeah, so I went off, got fancy degrees, and then decided to just leave it all in the dust so that I could be an actress and become a famous movie star. And that went well, as you can see. 15 years later, I was like, maybe I should get back to music. So I never really let it drop. I kept singing, I kept playing, and actually violin became this sort of lovely, safe kind of just for me sort of space where when I was practicing and stressed out at the conservatory, I'd just go play my violin and I started improvising, and I started trying to learn how to fiddle and that sort of stuff. And then at a certain point, I decided to put it first again, and got a proper fiddle teacher out in LA, and a guy by the name of Richard Green, who's pretty well known in fiddle circles. He used to have a band called C Train. And anyway, he used to play with Bill Monroe. So he helped me make the bridge from classical to actual fiddle. And then I put together a band, and I started writing songs, and eventually I met this guy.
And then Matt Greer is making her make the transition from actual fiddle to actual violin again.
Yeah, which is actually, honestly, I gotta thank you, Matt, because I've been practicing that piece, and we did our first live gig here in Denver. 2 nights ago. For first gig in like 2 years that we've done locally, and very few live gigs in the last 2 years, as you can imagine. Same for you. So honestly, we were a little rusty, but the rust is all worn off now. But I was so grateful for having had to work on that piece, because I was like, oh yeah,
her fiddle playing was on fire.
I know this board. I know this fingerboard. So yeah. Anyway.
Excellent. I'm so glad.
That's my story.
And Luke, what about you? How did you get into this? What did you grow up playing? And yeah, where did you grow up, first of all?
I grew up in Southern California in a little tiny town called South Pasadena, California, which is I don't even know if it's south of Pasadena, but it's its own little quaint little town. And I grew up in a family band. I was 8 years old, and my dad handed me a mandolin and a Mel Bay mandolin book and said, "Learn how to play it. You're in my band." And which is it's pretty true. I think he tried to show me a few things, but he wasn't a natural teacher. So I just taught myself. And then there was lots of instruments around the house, and I was the youngest of. It was me, my brother and sister, my mom and dad were in this band, and it didn't matter if you're terrible when you're 8 years old. So I had plenty of room to learn on the job. And but then I just started teaching myself the fiddle and the banjo and the guitar, because they were everywhere. And it's how I try to get people to love me. Play my instruments well. So yeah, just self-taught, went through the years, got in a bunch of country bands and bluegrass bands, and ended up in Nashville for a while pursuing that whole thing, which was kind of fun, but also, it's a whole nother deal there. Came back here, met Stephanie, and here we are. I mean, that's the short version, but yeah, she's overtrained, I'm undertrained, and the two of us together is like a collision of some sort that works.
What about singing for you? Did you grow up singing, just singing in the band? Was that a deal for you?
Me? Oh
yeah.
Yeah. Singing. I've always, yes, I was singing harmony. Actually, this is, I guess, kind of interesting. Since though my dad couldn't teach particularly well, I did learn how to read enough of the treble clef, at least for the mandolin's notes in first position. So I would show up to rehearsals. I was also homeschooled, arguably homed, but there was a lot of music, so that's good. But I would show up to our band rehearsals, and every note I was to play and every note I was to sing was written down. So I have this weird combination of, I can sight read the basics, but I can improvise really, really well. So I was singing since I was a little kid, whatever harmony I was supposed to sing. And then when I joined bands as an adult, I was always a harmony singer. And I guess I'm a lead singer now and a harmony singer, but I love to sing, but inside I just think of myself as an instrumentalist. And but yeah, so singing's been there though. And I was in a lot of church choirs too back in the day. So there was a lot of that as well.
Cool. Well, I have a few videos of yours to play, and I'm going to play this first one, which is called Flowers in Stone. What would you tell us about this song we're about to hear?
Well, this song, was a song that was inspired by travels. We were on the road, and so prior to starting this whole thing, when I was telling you I was trying to be a movie star and trying to become famous, I got a little distracted, and I started doing circus arts and aerial arts, and I became a trapeze artist, and that was awesome.
Oh, nothing. Really just fun. Became a trapeze artist really on the side.
So anyway, we got hired. We'd been playing together for, I don't know, a couple of years, and we started playing the performing arts centers, and we got hired in this little town in Oklahoma. And we drove into town, and the welcome sign, it was called Hugo, Oklahoma was the town. And it said, "Welcome to Hugo, Circus City, USA." So I was obviously intrigued. And so as we got into town, I was asking around, and we were told that there were 2 circuses that winter in Hugo, and they weren't there at the time. So I said, well, what's interesting about Hugo? What can I go do? And I was told to go to the cemetery. So this song is inspired by that trip to the cemetery, where there is this super cool area that was purchased by one of the circus managers or owners. And it's dedicated strictly to circus people. So you wander around, and there's all these old photographs of circus performers embedded in the headstones, and there's carvings of high wire walkers, and there's it's amazing and just kind of magical and bittersweet and beautiful. Anyway, I was totally inspired. So this song is from that inspiration. So
okay,
circus.
Let's hear it. This is Bettman and Halpin, Flowers in Stone. Enjoy.
Of a faraway calliope. If you go, magic is hanging in the air. With the catcher's release and a last rest in peace, the circus takes its final curtain there. Flowers and stone, you wandered along. Love that was passing is now everlasting, eternally known. Flowers and stone, finally home. Through tears and through laughter, you're here ever after, no more to roam. If you go to Hugo, tell strong John I say hello. Flying Latinos are balanced evermore with no net below. There lies Louise of the swinging trapeze, famed for her triple to the bar. Now she's spinning the breeze as she hangs from her knees and circles a falling star. Flowers and stone, you're finally home. Through tears and through laughter. You're here ever after. No more to roam. Nothing left but empty popcorn sacks and wagon tracks. Your circus is gone. Flowers and stone, you wandered alone. Love that was passing is now everlasting, eternally gone. Flowers and stone, you're finally home. Through tears and through laughter, you're here ever after. No more to roam. Through tears and through laughter, you're here ever after. No more to roam.
Beautiful. I love that song.
Thank you. You
And
know, I
that's a
haven't watched
great
that.
video.
Thank you. Yeah, we
I hadn't
actually,
seen that in forever.
I
That
haven't
was
seen
cool.
it all the way through in a while. I was really enjoying it.
Well, I'm
It's
so
kind
glad.
of cool. We actually shared that video on Facebook, and we've had a lot of people watch it, and it kind of got into the circus community. And so we heard back from a lot of circus performers or people in general who were like, "Oh my gosh, that shot of the cannonball guy, that was my great uncle. He
Oh my gosh.
he created that trick, and he did it until he died, and nobody else has ever done that trick." And it's kind of amazing. And we got various people got in touch with us and like, "Oh, I love that picture. That was my, that was my grandfather with the tears. That was him." And that was really cool.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah.
So how did songwriting come around for you two? When did you start writing songs?
Well, for me, I think it was kind of a natural evolution because I started writing poetry when I was in elementary school. I just always was kind of in love with words, and my folks started taking me to Shakespeare plays when I was 3. And so I went, like, when I was moving out of the house, I'd graduated and I graduated college, and I was moving to Chicago for the first time, and I was, you take all your stuff, and I was going through old stuff, and I found all these notebooks of like poems I'd written in elementary school. I didn't even remember. So I think that was like, it was a natural impulse in me. And when I was doing the acting thing, I was writing plays and little like short movies and things. And so writing was always kind of a thing. And then when I gave all of that up, I decided to start writing songs for real. And so that was, 16, 17 years ago now, I think, where I actually put my focus on it and started generating what are now 7 albums. Although arguably the 7th, which is to be released in 2022, is largely cover tunes of American Songbook, but there's a few originals in there. So yeah, I think it was just like born to it kind of thing for me.
Yeah, because that is something I love your songs, and I noticed that right away when I first discovered you guys. It's just that you don't do a lot of, in your standard show, you don't do covers really. You do original material for the most part. Isn't that true?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because when I first started performing, even before I met Luke, I was doing my own original songs, which, early on, before you have any kind of established fan base, people always, and actually for years, people were encouraging us, you guys should do some covers. You guys should do some covers, because I think there's a sort of a natural way that an audience connects to a band they're not familiar with, which is through a song they're familiar with. But I was always so excited to share what I had to say. And then we kind of crossed over where we had enough of a fan base and people were like, we don't want to hear covers. We want to hear your tunes.
Then we get mad if we did a cover because they were like, but then that means we can't hear one of your songs.
That means we can't hear the ones we want to hear that one that we love, but you didn't get to that one. And,
Over COVID, we've definitely done more covers than we've ever
Absolutely.
done just for our own satisfaction, because it's
fun.
it actually is really nice to do another song. And this is going to sound weird, I think, but sometimes when you write a song, you like it, but you don't know if it's any good. I mean, you know it's good, but you don't know if others will like it. And doing a song that's a hit already, you're like, wow, we don't have to worry about that. We just got to do a version of it.
Yeah. I totally could
a little bit of the fear out of it, but.
And so is part of the collaboration working out how the instrumentals fit into that and what instruments seem to fit? And I know recording is its own thing, but is that how you work that stuff out together?
90% of the songs at this point, that's probably a fair percentage, maybe 85, but it's probably 90% of the songs Stephanie writes in a vacuum with a computer in her brain and her head looking at the ceiling and singing into the room without any instrument whatsoever. Generally, every once in a while I hear plunking on a piano, but it's pretty much always just nothing, just melody and words. So the first time any of these songs get heard, I always hear them a cappella.
Yeah.
But
I'll sometimes be like, okay, but I want the groove to be like,
this is her groove. And so she'll give me a sense of that. Sometimes I like to not get any sense of it, really, just because I want to hear what's going on until the second time. And then like, okay, now what do you want it to be? And it's it's actually a great way to write songs. I mean, because for me, I can fall into a rut of like, oh, this is my little tricks on the guitar, or this is a chord progression that comes up a lot. But when you do it the way she does it,
it's wide open.
It's a wide open season, and she sings an E note. That could be a lot of different chords, man. So it's just it makes it it's a fun challenge. Sometimes it's really hard to figure out what's going on in her head versus what needs to happen in real life. And in those cases, I'm like, why don't you go to the piano and let's get a better sense here, because I don't want to keep guessing. But so that's a big part of the process. I think we start with and then groove becomes pretty quickly like. And Stephanie's problem is she's also hearing horns and choirs, and there's only me,
Yeah. That's the fun about composing with no limitation, because in your mind it can be anything. So in my mind, it's always like fully produced, and there's the backup choir, and there's the horns.
If she had her way, she'd have a band larger than Lyle Lovett.
Well, you're going to have a backup choir on Sunday afternoon, so that's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to that. I want to play another video. This is one of my favorite songs of yours, I got to say. And part of it is that I'm originally from Kansas, and my wife is majorly from Kansas. So I know that she loves this song too. This is Blue Stem. Would you set this up for us?
Yeah. So as you said, this song was inspired by Kansas. We were visiting. We actually started touring Kansas. That was one of the first out-of-state gigs that we had, and I was a baby booking agent, so I was just putting out feelers to anybody that booked anything in Kansas, and we got this gig. There was a new house concert coming together in Winfield, Kansas. And it was a bed and breakfast called Blue Stem Bed and Breakfast. And we drove out there and we met our hosts, Ken and Madeline. And we were coming from LA. We had no idea what Blue Stem was. So we asked and got an education. Turned out it's a natural prairie grass that grows through the center of the country in various places. And Ken was a farmer. He had hundreds of acres of wheat at the time, and he was letting them go back to the natural prairie grasses because that was enriching the topsoil. So anyway, that was the context of meeting them. And we played, this really small house concert, but they were just the loveliest people, and we kind of fell in love with them, and they with us. So we would go and visit and stop in Winfield, and we got to play the Bluegrass Festival, and all kinds of wonderful, magical things happened through that connection. And we were going to go visit them. This was several years ago now, just starting out a tour heading that direction. We were going to stop in Winfield, and we got the news that Ken passed away from pneumonia, surprisingly, like just the week before we left on tour. So we actually ended up playing a memorial for him and wrote this song for him, and it's called Blue Stem.
Let's hear it. This is Bettman and Halpin, Blue Stem.
Falling and running in streams. I am drowning in sorrow and blinded by light as we walk the farm in my dreams. We always walk the farm in my dreams. So many sorrows, so many joys, our plans for tomorrow seem like fury and noise. Did we do it upright? Did we conquer the day? No more battles to fight. You've saddled your steed and you're riding away. Tonight, it is falling and running in the streets. I am drowning in sorrow and blinded by light as we walk the farm in my dreams. We always walk the farm in my so many feelings, how many unsaid. You carried your burdens, sometimes heavy as lead. Did they all fall away? Did you finally know? No more lightning and thunder. We all stare and wonder why you had to go. And the rain is falling on Blue Stem tonight. It is falling and running in the streets. I am drowning in sorrow and blinded by light as we walk the farm in my dreams. We always walk the farm in my There are fences left to mend. There are fields still left to tend. But it all goes back to Blue Stem. Everything goes back to Blue Stem. Amen. The rain is falling on Blue Stem tonight. It is falling and running in the streets. I am drowning in
Beautiful.
An ode to Kansas. Ode to Kansas.
So before the, all the cancellations that everyone has had to deal with of the last year or so, you all were touring a lot of your time, right? And my impression is covering huge swaths of geography in your car. Both of those last songs are the result of you touring in different places. So what's it been like to not have that going on? And what have you been doing in the meantime?
Well,
That's a good question, Matt.
yeah, total life
question.
change. Total life change.
It's confused. Who wants to go? You go.
Okay, I'll go first. So, honestly, we were really tired. We'd been pushing it hard for 11 years 11 years of touring pretty much. And I had never spent so much time. We moved to Denver almost 11 years ago now, and had never been home for more than 2 months, 3 months at a time without leaving for, usually around a month.
Towards the end there, I was feeling like we were never home for more than 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I was getting kind of like, on, off, on, off, on. So it was a blessing in a lot of ways. I mean, it was terrifying. All of our gigs got canceled. We had a ton of stuff planned in 2020 that didn't happen, obviously.
And just like the gig that got canceled with you, at the time, it all sort of felt like, we'll all figure this out in a few weeks.
Right, a couple of months.
Yeah, so the being completely clueless was probably a gift, really.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened when everything got shut down was our agents said, well, Shakespeare wrote King Lear during the plague, so no pressure.
That's so helpful. All the people that have been saying that's really helpful. Yeah. And
then our creative brain just was literally shut off. Like,
okay, I don't have King Lear, so.
It was a strange time to have all this time that you say you want, and then absolutely no desire to do anything with it. It was so bizarre.
And such limitations too. I mean, we were home, but it wasn't like we could actually see really anybody for the first many months.
Right.
Then when we did, what happened actually was we both got pretty into spiritual practices and just doubled down on some of the health stuff that we do. We're whole food, plant-based
crazy people,
evangelists. So that was great. And then, we were able to open up a little bit and include a few friends. And so able to deepen a few friendships, which was really good. And then I did eventually start writing a few songs. So there are some new songs that came from this time. And
I'm now a professional meditator.
Yeah.
That became a thing.
Wow.
Like early.
You get paid for that. That's amazing.
I do.
You do?
No, I guess professional is really the wrong term. I said it so sincerely that it didn't come off as a joke. But that was a big thing for me. It's somewhat of the, early COVID. Number one, I waffle between, light anxiety and straight up panic attacks. And COVID was not perfect for that situation. And so I was like, well, I've been dabbling in meditating. Maybe now there's nothing else to do. So I had to run there. There was one of the months where I definitely clocked at least 3 hours a day because it was like, wow. I don't know what else to do. But I'm really grateful for that sort of over exuberance, because now it's pretty daily. On the days I don't do it, I can really tell the difference, and probably Stephanie can too. But I'll be forever grateful for that opportunity to shut down and calm down. And I mean, now we're back in it. I mean, we're in the studio constantly, and we're working towards the end of finishing this new record. So we're back in the chaos. Is we lit it right before we got on with you. We were just saying, like, man, we're right back. We're like, it feels kind of similar to pre-COVID, and it's like, we kind of said during COVID that we weren't going to let this happen again, But what are you going to do? Yeah. It is life is such as life. So I guess everyone's going to have to figure out what's the balance now that things are, well, they're definitely not back to normal, but now that things are allowing for a certain amount of activity and stuff. So,
right. Yeah. And I think everybody has been trying to think about, okay, what do we want to take from this? And what do we not want to bring back from the way we were operating before? What do we want to reevaluate and reimagine?
Yeah.
But it's hard. I mean, it just seems so surreal to me still that, that this happened.
One thing I'm
tell me,
grateful for too.
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just
Go
going to
ahead.
say is like for the first year, I was like, this is really weird. I don't miss touring at all, which is a little scary because that's where most of the bread gets made, And I am finally back to like, I think that's, I want it so bad. I want to go back and tour and do that again because I just, it's worth touring is exhausting, but the performing is truly what I love to do. I do like making music in the studio and that's great. But now that that's all we've been able to do, I'm like, all right, enough already. Let's go get out there. So I for us, it's still a little spotty. It's like one here, one there, one here, at least until next year. And hopefully at some point it'll open up again. But
yeah.
Well, of course, and you all have people, you tend to go back to a lot of the same places and, have made friends there and have people that come out to see you. And so I'm sure that's been difficult not to have that kind of affirmation and people who enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
That's right. That was like the family was out there and then
yeah. I mean, this gig that we just played a couple nights ago locally, it was a little bit of like, oh yeah, these are our people. They're so grateful to see us live. Like it was like, oh yeah, this is what we used to do all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
You've got a recording project you mentioned earlier that you're pretty excited about, that I think you said is shooting for next year. Tell me about that.
It's it's actually the larger concept of it is it's going to be 2 volumes, but we're just focusing on volume 1 right now.
Yeah. We ended up with 28 songs. We're like, we're gonna need to think this through.
So it's songs from the Great American Songbook. So it's Gershwin and Irving Berlin and a fair amount of Johnny Mercer and Harold Arlen and all those great songwriters from the sort of heyday of Broadway meets what was then pop, classical, like traditional Frank Sinatra's favorites, Ella's favorites, all those things, Summertime, songs like that. Which we have taken and brought into our world with guitars and mandolins and some fiddle playing, but we've also added, we've kept some of that kind of classic feel. We've got a clarinet player who's playing on some tracks, who's a friend of ours out in LA, who's just amazing. And we're doing a lot of harmony. We're having a lot of fun with backup harmonies and like kind of counterpoint stuff. And it's going to be so cool.
Yeah,
and it's going to be so cool. And it's taking us forever. It's been like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to say how many years it's taken us.
It's the blessing and curse of having your own recording studio in your house is that you can take as much time as you want, which is a gift for real. But it's also, you got to figure out how to rein yourself in. And I can't say that we've done that.
Well, but it's also, in fairness to us, I mean, it's also a new genre, so Luke has literally learned.
I've learned like 100 chords that I didn't know before.
Hundreds of chords.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been a huge learning curve for him more than me, but for me as well. It's been fun to go back to singing that way because that's kind of where I started with that sort of more legit sound, which has been really fun to revisit. And just like, I feel like we're going to be releasing into the world the best musical creation we have thus far created. I'm super excited about it. We're aiming for February of 2022. Hopefully we will meet that goal. That's the trajectory right now. But yeah, and there are a few originals on there which are in the style of American Songbook. So a lot of like what we just heard is more of our traditional Americana folk, kind of vibe. This stuff is going to have that old pop classic songbook feel, which has also been fun to dabble in as a songwriter. Really fun.
It's got to be fun. I mean, Stephanie's voice was built for these things, man. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
So
will we hear any of this on Sunday at your concert at St. John's?
Will they?
Oh, sorry. No pressure. I mean, it's just...
Maybe. How about we just leave it as a we'll see?
Well,
okay, that's totally fine.
At least share maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can make it happen.
That was no pressure for me. It was just pure curiosity because I love that stuff.
Well, the irony of that work is that we're spending so much time in the studio and so much time honing in on these songs that we haven't been spending a lot of time actually working them live and figuring out.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
I gotta go through this
With the
whole
two of us.
process where I listen to the whole record and go like, how can I play as many of those parts on one guitar? You know,
Gotcha.
sort of thing.
Okay, all right. Well, don't stress out about it. Whatever
Okay.
you play for us on Sunday will be.
Violin part.
Yes, you do. You do for Sunday morning.
Yes.
So let me play one more of your videos before we have to let you go. And is this an instrumental? The last one that we have? Okay. And what is this called?
This is called Banjo Boogie Stomp Stomp, and it's I used to play the banjo when I was like 12, and then a friend of mine stepped on the bridge and it broke, and I never played it again. And then
Was that intentional or unintentional?
you know what? It's not, but it's
Maybe.
funnier if it was. Then we were touring in Texas, and a guy came up to Stephanie and was like, "Does Luke play the banjo? Because I have two of them, and I can't play either of them." And so he gave me this banjo, and dutifully, I have a rule that if you give me an instrument, I'll learn how to play it. So and I also think it's easier to write songs than learn them. So we
this is what
we
came from
created
that.
this thing from that experience.
Okay. This is Bettman and Halpin, Banjo Boogie Stomp Stomp.
We call this Banjo Boogie Stomp Stomp.
Very fun. Good job on the banjo, Luke.
Hey, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Almost like he plays the instrument, right?
It is. It's just like he plays the instrument.
Yeah.
Do you guys enjoy doing the occasional instrumental, writing the occasional instrumental?
Well, Luke is the
It's one
instrumental
of my
writer.
favorite things. Yeah, I love it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I want a whole instrumental record someday. Actually, the dream is, this is like a 9-year-old dream before I knew there was such a thing as multi-track recording. It's like, I wish there was 5 of me. The first time I ever thought that's an arrogant thing to say, but when you're 9, it's cute. And because I didn't have any relationship to anybody, and it was like, well, all these instruments are here and I can kind of play them all. So I have this little fantasy of making a instrumental record where I play everything, just because I think it would be super fun just to do it.
Now,
Right.
in fairness, Luke plays more than 5 tracks on pretty much every
That's
track of the upcoming CD. So,
That's
you
true.
know, he
I
is
play
like all over it.
I've made myself the band.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it was because COVID was like, should we hire someone? Well, I guess I can play it. I'll do it. You know, it was just, there wasn't a lot of like mingling in the recording studio
Yeah.
during this time.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I love
Well-
instrumentals. I think they sort of terrify Stephanie a little bit, like the one she's going to do for you. I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, it's not really an instrumental. People will
It's not
hopefully they will not be paying exclusively attention to you, Stephanie, because the choir
in the
will be
living room,
singing.
it
And
sounds in the living room
Yeah.
here, it sounds like an instrumental. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. So thank you so much for doing this morning. This has been so fun. And hopefully it is, if people didn't know about you, they're now totally hooked and will be here. If you want to know more about Stephanie and Luke and their music, all of their recordings, upcoming dates, you can go to bettmanandhalpin.com. You can sign up for their email list. And just a reminder that this Sunday at 2:00 live in the St. John Sanctuary, and also live streamed on our YouTube channel, Bettman and Halpin, backed up by about a 50-voice choir on a few tunes, which is going to be crazy fun. So we're looking forward to that. Stay healthy and safe. Stay, travel safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you this weekend.
yeah, thanks for having us,
Thanks,
Matt.
Matt.
Okay, take care. See you soon. Friends, thanks for joining us this morning. A reminder that this Thursday we have a live stream concert from the Sanctuary. Fred Sturm, who's going to be doing a wonderful piano recital. Of course, we've got the wonderful concert happening this weekend, and then coming up the next few Monday mornings. Next Monday morning, I'm going to be interviewing my friend Jocelyn Hagan, who's a wonderful composer of choral music out of Minneapolis. And the following Monday morning on the 25th, I'm going to be interviewing Maria Ellis, who is a wonderful conductor, music educator, radio personality out of St. Louis. So we hope that you will continue to tune in on Monday mornings, in addition to everything else that is going on. Hope you enjoy your day, and we hope to see you again. Take care. Bye.